science has shown that gratitude has some incredible benefits, both to our personal relationships, but also for our own resilience and even our own personal health.
So Glenn, you've studied the science of gratitude. What are some of the things that it does do for us in our life to make us healthier, happier, less anxious, whatever?
Pretty much everything.
All the above?
Yeah, I mean, gratitude is a skill. It's something that we can all practice. It's something that we can learn to flex and lift more with it. It's like a muscle, right? So the more you practice gratitude, the stronger that muscle gets, the more we can lift with it. Gratitude is a potent mediator of personal setback, right? It really can promote healthier, better outcomes across any domain of things. So what gratitude really does, its fundamental shift is towards that of abundance, that we might have enough. Like, ponder this question, like, what if you have enough to do everything you need to do? What if we have enough? What if we are enough? What if we have enough? That shift, that's in a shift of abundance to go, what if we have everything we need just as we are to make things better? That's where gratitude really starts to help us, because we no longer think of what we're missing, we're thinking about what we have. Right. And that's the crux of pretty much all the scientific research on gratitude, is not so much looking at how we can shift perspective, but also what happens when we feel grateful. What is the long-term correlate for it? So in our study, we were the first to publish a direct report of the neural correlates of gratitude. And we were the first to really look at what happens in the brain when we feel grateful. And what we found is that it's a set of brain regions associated with interpersonal bonding and joy. It's a set of brain regions in our medial prefrontal cortex, meaning it's a brain region right above your nose, right here, right in between where the two hemispheres of the brain come together, right in between like your nose and your eyes, like right in the front. And the reason we were so excited that this brain region was the one involved is because this is a core brain region for reward, for our personal connections that we can form, and also for stress relief. So gratitude, we know, has something to do with our ability to be resilient, to be optimistic. And so we've always looked at what's the mechanism, what makes gratitude work like this? And our research seemed to indicate it has to do with stress. It has to do with our brain's innate circuitry for relieving stress and pain. And so gratitude fits in this part of our emotional map that luckily we can also practice. We can practice and develop gratitude as a skill, as a response to things, as a baseline for our day-to-day perspective.
Yeah, I love that about having it developed as a skill.
I was going to say the same thing.
Such a great, because
I never thought of it that way.
Well, as human beings, it's always like what we don't have. We have that. Okay, we got that covered. Check that box, and we got to go get this. Yep. We got to get that. We got to do this. We got to do that. And instead of referring back, you're on your deathbed. You don't hear people saying, God, I wish I would have taken that job instead of this job.
Yeah, I wish I'd worked a lot harder and spent less time with my kids.
Yeah. No one talks about that.
Also what I found really interesting that you said is the perspective of abundance, because when I have always thought of gratitude, I've always thought of people who maybe live in very humble villages somewhere in the world who are poor and are happy because they're happy with what they have and they don't know what they don't have. Contrary to that is the guy who's flying around in a private jet and still doesn't have joy because he still doesn't have enough. That was kind of always the context for me of gratitude. And it's interesting that the slight shift is that you have enough to achieve what you need to achieve. So bringing it back to sports, if you have a team that doesn't have quite the level of talent, but you can figure out how to use what you have, be grateful for it, and make the most of it, that would be sort of what you mean by finding that perspective of it's enough and not lacking what's lacking.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach it. You know, at the end of the day, you have to find ways to build your skill to be grateful for the smaller and smaller details of life, right? And gratitude being a motivating emotion is a really important part of this. So we think about, we're in the midst or hopefully emerging from a period of great suffering, right? COVID has ended millions of people's lives. It's shattered so many of our societal norms and trajectories. It's been a really, really difficult time. Okay, so are we grateful for COVID? Like, well, no, of course not. We'd rather this didn't happen.
Right.
We're not saying that, but you knew there was a but coming. But
Yes.
what are we grateful for? We're grateful for the scientific process that brought us vaccines, that the camaraderie to rise to this challenge. And we don't relish that it happened. We wish that it hadn't happened. We wish that it would stop happening. Right. But the grateful perspective is say, okay, well, I have a duty based on what I have to make it a little better. So when we're in the dregs, you know, I actually have gotten hate mail before, because we studied gratitude in the context of the Holocaust, right? And that's why my research I'm really proud of, because it's not just looking at gratitude when things are great and things should just continue to get great. We're grateful because of all the great things we have. Well, no, our research looked at stories of Holocaust survivors receiving gifts that saved their lives during the Holocaust, during this historic tragedy. And in the stories of these survivors, each one tells at least one story of a gift that saved their life. Yeah. It could have been the help of a stranger during one of the manhunts. It could have been a fellow prisoner inmate giving them a blanket. It could have been anything. It could have been one of the soldiers keep preventing people from being harmed, right? I mean, there's a texture to this. And of course, in the midst of this historical tragedy, there were still many who acted with profound dignity and sacrifice. These stories also deserve to be told. And categorically, what it shows is that even in the midst of this, you still had people being, I was so grateful for that, and feeling real deep, reporting feelings of deep, deep life-changing gratitude that inspired how they lived the rest of their lives. Yeah. So gratitude is not just a synonym for happiness, not just something that's meant to be used when things are great. So back to this hate mail. So when we published this paper, I got an email from someone saying, stop publishing this drivel about how we can be grateful when things are bad. And I was just felt so much compassion for this person. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I just felt so sad that they didn't see that I wasn't saying things are great when they're not. I was saying the shift of abundance to say, you know what, I've got a little left in the tank. A little bit of help has come my way to keep going, right? To have a little bit of purpose. Right. That's what gratitude and purpose are really, really closely linked. I published that paper shortly after my mom died, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to finish my thesis before she died, and I didn't do it. Yeah. And so it was emerging from the context of a really tough time for me. Mm-hmm. And so practicing gratitude while going through this really tough thing, while studying gratitude, was this really rich experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it shifted me to know, like, no, there's always something we can be grateful for. Yeah. There's always something. I know how hard it is, but that's the skill. That's the skill. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's the skill.
You gotta be conscious.
Exactly. And that's like where sports are, right? Like our friend Pete Carroll, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Always, you never count out a Pete Carroll team. Yeah. You never count them out. Yeah. Because he's always looking for something. He's like, well, maybe we get one interception, we get one return, we get this. We just need one play, right? And that's why you don't want to compete against a guy like that, because they're always looking for that one thing that's going to spin their fortune, and they're never going to let themselves get down. And so that's where sports as a storyteller is so important, because even when you're losing, you might be like, man, I learned so much from watching them try to take advantage. Or I watched this one player was drafted to this team that was last place, and man, he played his butt off, even though he knew he was still a team leader. He was still there. Like, that's as inspiring as somebody who is just gifted the whole way through or whatever. You know,
I think it's more inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. We should cherish those stories. You know?
I think there's a great story, and I don't know that perfectly, but there's a high school softball team in Los Angeles that for 3 straight seasons lost every game. And it was beautiful, and their response to it was they kept coming back, and they found the gratitude in the little moments of just getting better. And they were also like great sports ladies, because they were, a girls softball team, and would be really wonderful hosts to other teams that were playing on their field. And so you read something like that, and these are 15, 16, 17-year-old young ladies, and they've already figured out what some of us who are much older are still trying to figure out.
Well, and the idea being, you carry that with you, right? That's where gratitude as a muscle is. You learn to flex on seeing these things. You get stronger at it, right? You do a little bit every day to notice what you're grateful for, to write it down, to meditate on it, to send a thank you note, to express it. And in so doing, you get a little bit more perceptive of the good things you have, right? I'm not saying every day is a great day, or that you're gonna levitate over your couch cushion when you feel enough gratitude for things. Like, no, it's actually a very pragmatic, just down to earth thing of saying, well, today's a terrible day. I'm glad it's over. Right? Like that.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think social comparison for gratitude can be really tricky. So I want to have this in the discussion, that saying, well, at least I'm not so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
Don't at least yourself ever.
Right.
Because you don't know, like, I guess at least you're not dead, right? Is that's the end all of that. That's the slippery slope of, well, at least you're not like that poor schmuck, right?
People use that.
People do that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when it comes to gratitude, it's a bit of a slower process. You're not negotiating things, right? You say, well, at least I didn't have my spaceship to the moon. Like, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, so you have to find things that are tangible, that are in front of you, and especially that you can notice, that you can control, that have to do with other people reaching out and helping you, looking at all the invisible hands that help us live our everyday life. That's the crux of gratitude.
Well, there's a shift, isn't there, Glenn, in just how you view life, and what you view, and where you have your attention, and where your attention goes, so goes your energy.
Yep.
And so that's what you're talking about is exercising those muscles.
Yep.
And the more you're sending this good vibes up here from the gratitude, the more gratitude you'll notice out there.
And the more you'll share with people, and the more they'll share with you, and the more they're going to like dealing with you, and the more you like dealing with them, and the more honesty and trust and vulnerability that can be baked in. That's the upward virtuous cycle of gratitude.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
This is the part where we're supposed to tell people to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Okay, will you please do that then? I mean, if you enjoy it, please do.
And if you don't, do it anyways, because we need your help.
We do.
Also, we have a website called GameChangeNation.com. Just go there and subscribe, and you'll get tons of free content.
And what we're really trying to do is create a community of people that love sports.
Yep.
And the great lessons that we learn from sports, but we want to hear from you.
We do. So we're going to have a bunch of social media pages, from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter to Facebook. Instagram, I probably already said all of them. Please join them and tell us your stories. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, and we wrote a book.
Oh,
Forgot about that.
that.
The book is called Through the Tunnel. It's available on Amazon now. If you go straight down here to this link that you can see below us, you will be able to purchase it. We'd love it if you could do it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.